Yo, I want to talk about at the end of 2025, going into 2026, especially with the launch of the Sony A7 V, where I feel like Sony is going wrong as a camera company. Let's talk about it. What's up, y'all? It's Tight Shirt here, Warford. I'm back for another video. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Remember to be thankful for your freaking life today because you did not have to have it. A few things before we get started. Number one, this video is sponsored by Artlist. I will tell you all about them a little later in the video. Number two, every video y'all ask me, what camera are you using, X, Y, and Z to make this video? So I'll make sure in the pinned comment and also in the description that I list everything. And yes, there are affiliate links. Yes, I'm going to get a kickback. No, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but yes, you're going to buy it anyways. And yes, you will like to support the channel, so use the affiliate links. And then number three, this video is just my opinion, y'all, so it doesn't mean that everything I'm saying is accurate or true. In fact, you are entitled to your own opinion, and you can disagree with me. This is what the comment section is for. So if you agree or disagree, and believe it or not, Sony does, randomly look through the comments to see what feedback they're getting from the creators and also the users. Leave it down there for them to see it, okay? Now, the first thing I want to do is give Sony their flowers, okay? We got to clap it up for Sony. Okay, because honestly, if it wasn't for Sony, mirrorless cameras would not be what they are today. Sony has been leading the way for a long time, and I know a lot of people feel like now Sony's got complacent and all that stuff, which we're about to discuss that. However, let's give respect where respect is due. Do y'all remember the Sony A57, A77? Sony's SLT line of cameras that brought the translucent mirrors. Typically with DSLR cameras, they had to flip the mirror up out the way to be able to shoot video, and then you couldn't see nothing because the mirror was out the way, right? Well, Sony brought these sensors that light could pass through and also upward. So number one, they gave mirrorless cameras a continuous live preview of what the camera was seeing. That's number one. Number two, they gave cameras phase detect continuous autofocus, and everything just blossomed from there. In fact, they were moving so fast that they would drop a camera and 6 months later, people would get pissed. Like, bro, I just bought the Sony A7. You telling me now that there's an A7 II or now an A7S II? So my point is, Sony carried the mirrorless game to where it is today. Now, I do have two Sony cameras right here on the table. Unfortunately, the A7 V has already been sent back to Sony. If you want to watch that video, it'll be linked at the end of this video. This is the Sony RX1R Mark III and also the A7R5. And I also brought two other cameras to talk about today, and that is the Lumix S1R Mark II and also the Nikon ZF. We're going to talk about all of these cameras today. However, I brought the Sonys out because I think that Sony knows who their target customer is, okay? And even though some of us might disagree with who we think the target customer is, let's keep it a buck. Sony makes cameras for people who want amazing image quality, amazing video quality, they want amazing autofocus, and they want the best selection of lenses out there. They want cameras that are dependable, that just work, and that get the job done, okay? They're not going after the people who are high-end filmmakers. They have a cinema line for that. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just calling it what it is. They go after people who, are really into photography and want some good video also. And both of these cameras are representative of that. Now, we always say that nobody wanted this camera that Sony dropped. For example, when the Sony ZV-E10 came out, everybody was in a tizzy about it. Nobody wanted this camera. Ended up being probably the best-selling mirrorless camera next to the Canon M50, I think, ever. It's still one of the highest sold cameras to this day. So although we think that we know what everybody wants, we do have to also acknowledge the fact that Sony actually has the data. They have the marketing data. They have the marketing team. They have the analysis. They have the R&D. They have the sales data. They know what they're doing, all right? Now, the issue is a lot of us are camera snobs. We're camera nerds. And we don't lay in that demographic of people who Sony market cameras to, right? We are the people that are looking for more out of this camera. I mean, regular people are starting to look for more out the cameras too. We're about to get to that. But me, D-Bag, YouTube reviewer, are looking for way more than typically what Sony has to offer. So I'm gonna move this over to the Sony A7 V, right? In a vacuum, the Sony A7 V is honestly a bomb camera, especially for people who want to be in the Sony ecosystem, who are not looking for every single cinema line feature that you can get in the mirrorless camera. So I said in a vacuum, the A7 V is great. However, when you bring a camera into the mix, like the Lumix S1 II and the S1R2 that I have right here on the table, these are also very, very competent photo cameras, which now have really, really good autofocus. But you know what they're happening to have? All of the video things that Sony probably will never give us. However, when you start looking at the competition, who are now offering similar things and way, way more for the same price, because people are looking at the price point of $3,000. They're looking to see what the competition is offering also. And Sony is missing out on that, thinking that they don't have to cater to those people. Now, I have to go back and say, you know, obviously they're the ones with the data, but on the opposite side of it, we can clearly see that people are becoming disinterested in Sony because they're not offering the abundance that other camera companies at the same price are offering. So I think that's one of Sony's major problems, is not opening their eyes and realizing that there's more people in the camera industry than just their core audience of users, and people are starting to want more out of their cameras for the price. Now, the next two cameras that I want to talk about are the Sony A7V Mark III and also the Nikon ZF, right? The Nikon ZF is not the most powerful camera out there, but you know what? This camera is a freaking blast to use because of what it is. It's a hybrid mirrorless camera, shoots photo and video, but it's got this tactile feel to it with dials and buttons and switches and all of that stuff on it. So it's a really fun camera to use, although it's not the best spec-wise. This is Sony's A7V Mark III. Very small precision camera. Really, really good image quality. I made a bunch of videos on both of these cameras, but really good image quality, crazy good autofocus. It's the tiniest full-frame camera out there. However, what if Sony instead came out with a camera like this? Or like this? What if Sony came out with a vintage style camera like the Nikon ZF, but it was a Sony camera? By the way, real quick, those little videos you saw right quick, obviously those are not real Sony cameras. I actually did use Artlist in their AI photo and video section to create those videos, and it was real easy. Just a simple prompt in there to tell it what I wanted and generate it and then spit it out. Obviously, you want to use AI responsibly, y'all. Just use your freaking brain when it comes to AI. However, I do want to shout out Artlist real quick because they do have all of the latest AI models on there. They just added Kling 2.6 Pro, which is crazy. They have Sora 2 Pro on there now. They have Nano Banana on there now. So all of these different AI models that you're seeing pop up everywhere, instead of having to go to this website for credits and that website for credits, you can test it out all on Artlist, and they're continuing to add all of the newest models on there, on top of AI voiceover, LUTs, plugins, music, sound effects, all of that stuff. Anyways, this was a great tool to even help people visualize what a vintage style Sony camera will look like. So go on there and test it out. Right now, there's actually a holiday sale on the AI plans up to 40% off. So you can test out the Sea Dream, the Nano Banana, the Sora 2, all of the models on there. And also by clicking the link in the description, I can give you 2 months free on an annual plan on top of whatever the holiday sale is. So go on there, test it out for yourself, see what you can create, and thank you to Artlist for sponsoring today's video. Now, where was I? Sony needs to make a camera, okay, or cameras that inspire creativity. I think that's what I'm getting at. Yes, Sony makes amazing photography and video tools, but the reality is cameras are so good nowadays, including Sony's cameras, that people are wanting more. You know why I pick up the Nikon ZF? Not because it's the best when it comes to image quality or specs or anything like that. It's because of the feeling of it, and it makes me want to go out there and shoot. If the A7V Mark III was like vintage styled, I would be so happy to have this technology in a vintage style small camera body. To make it even better, what if Sony added in something like Fuji did or Nikon did with like film simulations and allowed you to add in like film grain and custom white balance and custom tonality curves and custom tint and all that stuff in the A7V Mark III or any other camera that they offer. They did add some new film looks, but honestly, it's still not enough to create with the other cameras out here like the Nikon ZF that are just giving us the ultimate stuff when it comes to creativity. So that's the next thing I think Sony's doing wrong. They're focusing way too much on hardware and specs, but they're not doing anything to inspire us creatively to use the cameras. Another huge argument, and we saw this with both of these cameras, is Sony reusing technology. And people always in a tizzy about this. Oh, Sony's just throwing everything else from the other cameras into the new camera and calling it a new camera. But I honestly don't think anything is wrong with that. If the sensor is so good, what's the problem with putting that same sensor in another camera with a different purpose, right? Or if the autofocus is so good, what is the issue with putting the best autofocus into another camera? Nothing, because it's the best autofocus out there. I think where Sony goes wrong is they've already done so much in the industry. So unfortunately, it's just not exciting to us anymore. Although it's the best freaking out there, we expect it at this point. It sounds like a relationship. Anyways, I digress. We expect the best autofocus out of Sony, so it's no longer exciting, right? And maybe that's our problem. Maybe that's Sony's problem. Whatever the case may be, we want to feel when Sony drops a new camera that there's something is exciting, right? And the A7 V did bring some new stuff. It brought a totally new sensor, some improvements and all that stuff, but it still didn't feel exciting. You want to know why? Because it really wasn't anything new that we haven't seen from Sony already. We saw everything that it had to offer in the Alpha 1 Mark II, okay? So with that said, what if Sony added in something like the Nikon ZR has now, built-in 32-bit float? That we would have been so excited about that because we've never had it in a Sony camera. What if Sony finally added shutter angle in a regular hybrid camera? You know, it would be so excited because we've never had it in the Sony camera. So, you know, this is the double-edged sword here when you're already so good at something that everything good over time seems like it's not that good anymore. Although the other companies don't have this stuff, and we would praise it if one of the other companies did it. So anyway, Sony needs to do more to, I guess, wow us. And even if that means innovating in smaller ways, instead of, oh, it's got to be a totally new sensor. No, think smaller, like start putting built-in storage in cameras and stuff like that. Those things would get people excited about with Sony again. I think all in all, what I'm trying to say is, yes, Sony makes fantastic cameras, but guess what? Everybody at this point is making fantastic cameras. All of these cameras are way more than good enough. All of these cameras shoot amazing photos and videos, but where people are starting to see is for the same price, other companies are starting to give more. And although, yes, Sony knows who their target audience is, Sony knows who's going to buy their cameras, they got to start thinking out the box and looking outside the box if they don't want to lose people to these other systems who are bringing cameras that are just as capable at the same price point but with way more features. Overall, is there anything wrong with Sony cameras? No. If you have a Sony camera, should you feel bad? Absolutely not. Sony still has the best autofocus, the best lenses, and all of that stuff. But people want more, and as a advocate of the community, I have to also be a soundboard of the community. And Sony, this is how the community feels. Thank you for making great cameras, but sometimes you got to do more, all right? Anyways, thank you to Artlist for sponsoring this video. Make sure y'all check it out. I understand how you might feel about AI, but unfortunately or fortunately, AI is here to stay. And as a creator, you know, you can either cry about it or you can learn how to use it to your advantage. And the tools are here for you to use if you want them, especially on Artlist. And they make everything super simple, and they have everything else that you need as a creator. So hit the link in the description, test it out, make sure you sign up. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so that you get notified when new videos go up. I'm done yapping. Until next time, Tight Shirt Terry Warfield. Peace and chicken grease. I'm out, y'all. Much love. Peace.